Welcome, age of vintage society. Pop singer Connie Francis was America's top-selling female recording artist during the late 1950s and early 1960s. Between 1958 and 1964 she recorded more than 50 chart singles, including Who's Sorry Now, My Happiness and Everybody's Somebody's Fool. The diminutive young singer with the big clear voice became a teenage idol. Why Connie Francis considers her life a bust despite being a Hollywood royalty. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. The 20th century produced many popular singers. Of all the great girl singers, no one personified her generation or was more idolised by millions across the world than Connie Francis. Connie Francis's decades-long career was marked by the all-glittering things of Hollywood royalty. There were #1 hit songs, iconic movies, Hollywood boyfriends, glamorous gowns, and TV appearances on American Bandstand and The Ed Sullivan Show. Despite it all, she considers her personal life a bust. For as much success as I had professionally, personally I'm a failure, said Francis. My choice of husbands, my lack of judgment in choosing the right husbands, my impulsiveness, my not looking before I leaped, so many mistakes that I would have avoided. She recorded songs in a variety of genres, including country, Broadway standards, R&B, vocal jazz, children's music and spiritual music. She also did songs in rock and roll, novelty songs and torch ballads, among several others. She recorded several albums, including Connie Francis Sings Italian Favourites, which still stands as her topmost album. Connie Francis's music career was characterised by difficulties and inconsistencies. She became the top-charting female vocalist during the latter part of the 1950s and early 1960s. Her popularity and chart success, however, could not stand the test of time as it waned in the second part of the 1960s. Despite this, she remains a top concert draw and continues to be a recording and performing artist. Connie Francis encompassed country, rock and roll and traditional vocal pop and has recorded in 9 languages. Connie Francis was born Concetta Rosa Maria Franconero on December 12, 1938 in Ironbound, Newark, New Jersey. Her father, George Franconero Sr., was a dock worker and a roof contractor, while her mother, Ida Franconero née Ferrari DeVito, was a homemaker. She had a younger brother named George Franconero Jr. She received education at Newark Arts High School and continued at Belleville High School, graduating in 1955. Her father was a natural entertainer, having certain musical ambitions which remained unfulfilled. Therefore, when little Concetta began to show her musical talent, he happily passed his ambition on to her. As soon as Concetta turned 3, her father enrolled her in a music school for accordion lessons. He envisaged that when she grew up, she would open an accordion school, but soon he realised that his daughter, with her strong and tuneful voice, had even greater potentials. Prompted by her father, Concetta began to appear at different talent contests, pageants, lodge celebrations, church socials and other neighbourhood festivities from the age of 4, singing and playing the accordion. Living in an Italian Jewish neighbourhood, she also began to pick up Yiddish, soon becoming fluent in it. Franconero grew up in a working-class Italian-American family. Encouraged by her father, she sang and played the accordion from an early age, and in 1950 she made an appearance on Arthur Godfrey's nationally televised Talent Scouts program. At 14 she found herself making demonstration records for publishers, who would then pitch these yet-to-be-published songs to the most popular singers of the day. Before that first 4-hour demo session was over, Connie knew for certain that if she were ever to find her place in the sun, it would surely begin in a recording studio, the one place which would consume the major part of her time for the next generation and more. Anywhere I travelled on planet Earth, I never failed to find myself at a session. Sometimes I felt as if I lived in a recording studio. It was during this period that she changed her stage name to Connie Francis on the advice of Godfrey, who found it difficult to pronounce Franconero. Amateur shows were the rage of 1950s TV, and the talented young Connie soon found a home on a weekly kiddie variety show, NBC TV's The Star Time Kids. Produced by a former hoofer named George Sheck, it was a program in which she would appear every single week for the next 3.5 years. When Startime had its run, Sheck became Connie's manager, a close relationship that lasted almost 30 years. At 17, with the Startime Kids off the air, George Sheck, together with a music publisher, Lou Levy, raised the $6,000 needed for Connie's first own recording session. They then brought these masters to every record company in the business, and everywhere they were turned down flat. Mitch Miller, the top A&R man at Columbia Records, had this advice for the two hopefuls. "This girl has no distinctive sound. She sounds like 50,000 other girl singers. Save your money, boys." Connie Francis began her musical career with lots of disappointments, as many major recording labels turned her down, until MGM Records finally decided to sign her. Her debut single with the label was Freddie, which performed badly commercially. She would release 8 other singles, which all turned out to be commercial failures. However, Who's Sorry Now, a 1920s standard that she had recorded in 1957 as a rock ballad, became a hit the following year after it was championed by Dick Clark on his American Bandstand television show. MGM Records, the then president Harry Mayerson, made a much different decision. He signed her to a 20-side, 2-year unprecedented contract, one which allowed Connie to choose her songs to record, and without having to rely on MGM recouping the costs for these sessions. The same unique rights she would enjoy for the next 15 years with the label. MGM was finally ready to drop her from their roster. She was blessed with a golden voice, one that the world would come to adore, and which would inspire and touch the hearts of many millions. Before that huge hit by a female artist, the recording industry was a male-dominated market. That was the reason why Connie was so flabbergasted when Dick Clark announced that day, "Here's a new girl singer, and she's headed straight for the #1 spot." At the time, she hadn't even met her idol, Dick Clark, the national spokesman for every teenager in America. But soon after they met, they developed a close and endearing friendship that lasted until his recent death, a personal tragedy over which Connie was inconsolable for weeks afterward. Following the success of Who's Sorry Now, Connie embarked on a non-stop, manic-paced schedule, filled with endless recording sessions, appearances on every TV variety show in existence, and record-breaking appearances at the nation's top nightclubs. At the greatest American nightclub of them all, New York City's Copacabana, she became the biggest female draw for the next 11 years. Throughout the 60s, she continued to break all records at Hollywood's famous Coconut Grove, the Lincoln Center, the Eden Rock Hotel in Miami Beach, Blindstrup's in Boston, the Elmwood Casino in Ontario, the Concord Hotel in the Jewish Catskills, the Latino Casino in Cherry Hill, and countless others. She was named America's Sweetheart of Song and became the dream girl of every young man, the secret sister of every teenage girl, and the ideal girl almost every parent in America wished their daughters to emulate. Connie became their role model, a lofty position she took quite seriously. Only a year later, the market was flooded with everything Connie Francis, from diaries to scrapbooks to autograph books, charm bracelets, record carriers, coats, scarves, sportswear, t-shirts, jackets, to posters, the works. She also experienced many firsts in her early career. At 22, she was the youngest performer ever to star at the Copa. when it wasn't during prom season. At 22, the first to land her own ABC TV network special. Also at 22, the youngest ever star to headline in Las Vegas at the Sahara Hotel, and the first female to have a million-selling rock and roll hit, Stupid Cupid, written by her friends Neil Sedaka and Howie Greenfield. With the arrival of the Beatles in 1964, Frances's star dimmed, her conversational pseudo-rock and roll style yielding to different tastes. Still, she retained a large following and continued to perform and record well into the 1970s. After appearing at the Westbury Music Fair in New York on November 8, 1974, Frances was robbed and raped at knife point in her hotel room and left tied to a chair under a pile of mattresses. While her attacker was never found, the singer won a $2.5 million settlement in a suit charging the hotel with negligence. Afraid to leave her home after the trauma, Frances grew despondent. In 1977, plastic surgery to reshape her nose temporarily damaged her voice, adding to her despair. After her younger brother, a lawyer, was killed in a mafia-style slaying in 1981, the singer's equilibrium began to seriously waver. Frances's several failed marriages, 2 miscarriages, stormy relationship with her domineering father, and the pressures of stardom heaped on her since childhood weighed heavily on her. Tragically, like her prodigious success, Frances's decline was dramatic and profound, marked by a descent into mental illness that began when she was attacked. Performing sporadically after that, the entertainer spent the ensuing years in and out of psychiatric hospitals, teetering precariously between wellness and crippling relapse. It was not until the early 1990s that Frances reclaimed her health and returned to singing. Talking to Catherine Casey in the Ladies' Home Journal, she revealed that performing may be her best medicine. "I relax only when I'm in front of an audience," she related. "It's the only time I really know who Connie Frances is." Frances enjoyed a comeback in 1981, but this upturn would go unfulfilled. Her father committed her to a psychiatric hospital against her will in 1983. The singer was diagnosed as manic depressive, but once released, failed to regularly take the medication prescribed to correct this chemical imbalance. Throughout the 1980s, Frances's life was plagued by stormy highs and abysmal lows. She was arrested for punching her hairdresser, refusing to extinguish a cigarette while on a refueling jet, and threatening a police officer with broken glass. She attempted suicide by swallowing a handful of sleeping pills, underwent shock treatments for depression, and suffered from paranoid delusions. Finally, a new drug therapy and the singer's long overdue realization of the essentiality of her medication set her on the road to recovery. Connie Frances has married 5 times. They are Joseph Garzilli, a restaurateur and travel agency owner from 1973 to 1978. Married for 5 years, it remains her longest ever union. Her marriage to press agent and entertainment director for the Aladdin Hotel, Dick Canellis, lasted for 4 months. Others are to a hair salon owner, Izzy Morrison, for 10 months, and to TV producer Bob Parkinson for 8 months. Connie Frances has lived one of the greatest American dream lives of the 20th century, and as we've entered the 21st, she continues to live that dream with conviction and purpose until this day. At one time, when asked what she would like her legacy to be, she was quoted as saying, "I would like to be remembered not so much for the heights I have reached, but for the depths from which I have come." Today, Connie puts it more simply by merely saying, "I hope I did okay." If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Connie Frances? Frances's life was plagued by highs and lows, but she has still remained one of the greatest singers of the 20th century.